What's that, Timmy? You want to talk about the prices of magic cards?
Pennies, coins.
What's up, guys and girls? Thanks a lot for watching. New Magic players and old Magic players, Freetreons, and anybody tuning in on the channel for the first time. Today is April 17th, 2022. Supposition for you folks. The price and value with regards to Magic cards does not mean the same thing. Here's a presupposition for everybody tuning in on the channel. Price and value are distinguishable when it comes to Magic the Gathering. If you're a new player, Timmy, if you're listening, this video is for you. More experienced Magic players will sort of come up with the term price value comparison, and they'll try to explain, why cards are moving, what cards are moving, how come they're moving. It's difficult to talk to the Timmies sometimes when it comes to price and value and how they're different. So let's go ahead and just look at a couple of cards, and we'll have a casual Sunday afternoon discussion on price and value. And the presupposition that price and value do not mean the same things with regards to Magic cards. So let's take a look at a Magic card, Mishra's Workshop. I picked a few cards that I think most people will recognize for this video. One that is easily recognizable is the Mishra's Workshop. It is currently sitting at a price of $4,685 USD. In North America, 2,299 euro, 33 euro cents in the Eastern Kingdoms. Okay, so what does that mean? That's the cost to get the card. So whether you're new to Magic or old to Magic, especially if you're new to Magic and you either sell out of a card or you trade a card and you get a face palm because as soon as I sold it, it spiked. I feel like I got spiked. This happened to you? Yeah, I'm sure it has. It's happened to all of us. Why is this card at the price that it's at? Well, there's a couple of reasons for that. But let's just look at the Magic card and what it does, and then we'll try and draw some comparables to other Magic cards with regards to price and value. So let's talk about the value of this card and how they're differently. So the price we talked about is $4,685, but what's the value of a Mishra's Workshop? What does it do for you? So like a value of the price of a loaf of bread is $3, right? $2.99, right? I just bought a loaf of bread today for $2.99. It was a pretty good deal, actually. So that's the price of a loaf of bread. Now, what's the value of a loaf of bread? Well, it can feed you. So it's got value there. It can do something for you. Not only can it feed you, it can feed your friends. So it can feed your family. It can take care of you for a little while. So there's value there. So people talk about them differently, so that's an easy way to distinguish the value of a Mishra's Workshop. It's a land, so it has no cost to put it into the battlefield. So Magic is a really good game that way, because inside, built into the game, there's a fiat system, or there's a system of currency with mana associated with playing spells, and you see that in the game. So when you step out of the game and you look at the price of cards and you're trying to determine the value of cards, it's one thing. And then when you're in the game and you're playing the game, cards have a cost. So Mishra's Workshop, it doesn't cost you $4,685 when it's in your hand to put it on the battlefield in a game, because we've already gone past that if you have one. So what is the value here? So the value is, if you've got it in your hand, you can play it onto the battlefield for no cost. There's no additional cost to play it because it is a land. It taps and it adds 3 colorless mana to your mana pool, and this can be used to cast artifact spells. So it gives you 3 mana colorless for no cost in the game, right? It's very little downside. So this is a perfect example of a card that is a target for speculators, especially when we get into talking about second and third level Magic the Gathering finance, such as print runs, and this particular card is from Antiquities, so that has another layer of financial implications as well. But for value conversation's sake, the Mishra's Workshop does what it does. It comes onto the battlefield. It creates 3 resources that could be spent in the game to cast artifact spells. So that's pretty good value. Let's take a look at another card that sort of meets that same type of criteria. Gusta's Scepter. So again, we're also speaking on reserve list cards here today. So when we're trying to distinguish a difference between price and value and how to evaluate cards, I mean, a lot of it is with your gut. It depends on what type of player you are, and what type of game mechanics you like. Some players have an aptitude to see how cards interact with other cards that you wouldn't think about. And that's part of the beauty of the game of Magic. It's a deep game, it's a long game, it's got a lot of history, and there are thousands and thousands of cards and thousands of gameplay interactions. So for example, this card here, Gusta's Scepter, it's $4.88. In the European market, it's €4, 10 euro cent. That's the price of the card. It's the fiat buy cost if you were to purchase it on the market. Now, let's draw some parallels between this card and the one we just looked at. This card is 0 mana artifact. It has no cost, the in-game cost to play it as it stands. Like if it's in your opening hand, I mean, it can be interacted with. It can be made to cost more. There are cards that put attacks in the game, such as Thalia, or counter spells that make you pay 2. Then it's just a question of whether your opponent's willing to trade a resource to fight you playing this resource. But let's just make a comparison. In the game, what does it do? What does it cost you to play it? It costs nothing. You put it onto the battlefield, and then it's an artifact and it has text on it, and it does something. The part about finance is, this is a tough part about picking cards. You really got to get interested in cards and reading the cards, because reading the cards explains the cards. Buying the cards that have good long-term value and could be affected with good long-term price increase, it's dependent on what's written on the card usually. So let's just see. We've covered Gusta's Scepter in our last video, but we'll read it again for anybody who's tuning in, any new players. Today on our presupposition that price and value do not mean the same thing with regards to Magic the Gathering cards. They're treated differently. New players may not know this. Experienced players should know this, and seasoned veterans know this for sure. So we tap the Gusta's Scepter. We can, well, first of all, if it leaves play or you lose control of it, put all cards underneath the Scepter into your graveyard. So you can tap the Scepter, put a card from your hand face down under the Scepter, look at it at any time, return any, and then you can tap it to return any card under the Gusta's Scepter to its owner's hand. So there's the value that the card mechanic does for you. That's what it provides for you. It's like that loaf of bread. What does it do for you? Does it feed you? This one doesn't feed you. It doesn't provide 3 mana like the one we were just looking at. This one, the Mishra's Workshop, it doesn't give you resources like the other one, like this Mishra's Workshop does, but this is the value that this card gives you. The Gusta's Scepter gives you a different type of, he gives you a mechanical value in the game, and allows you to take a card from your hand. Of course, he has to be tapped. So, there's some mechanics of the card there, and it's built in. Now, this card's also on the reserve list, but why isn't it $4,000? Well, it's some other factors include print runs, because it's from Alliances, versus the other card we were looking at, the Workshop, is a significantly lower print run because it's from Antiquities. But this is a card that, I mean, it's if you can compare the two mechanics, let's put price aside. Let's not talk about dollars or cents or trading value or what you would pay for either card. Let's look at the optics of the card. If they're both in your hand, one comes down onto the table. It provides 3 of a resource to play additional card spells. This one comes down and it sort of gives you an immediate mechanical game interaction, being able to tuck cards from your hand and develop a board state where you essentially have a hidden hand or another hand in the game. So it moves your game state along. Compare those two things just for a minute. Just think about those two things. One is considerably more powerful than the other, for sure. So this is where players' aptitude, like if you understand about a game mechanic, like this could be good with other cards that wheel, but it doesn't take too much sense. I mean, I guess that's the same argument with the Black Lotus. People say, well, all it does is add 3. Well, the Black Lotus is another example of something that costs nothing and adds 3. So adding 3 mana to your mana pool as a value in the game, in the mechanics of the game, is pretty sought after on this card as well as the Black Lotus. We didn't pull up the Black Lotus. I didn't think to mention the Black Lotus, but there's not a Black Lotus video. But it's a value presupposition between price and value argument, for the new players out there who are tuning in, to be able to look at your cards, read your cards. Don't give your cards away without reading them. If you're trading cards, make sure you take a look at the card, read it, get an idea what it does for you, and ask yourself, is that something I want to be able to do within the game of Magic? And a lot of people who play old school, they think of cards in these terms. They say, well, is that a game mechanic that I'd like to be able to do in a game of Magic? And if the answer is yes, then getting copies of the older cards that give you access to those game mechanics is essential. You could say this card, Gusta Scepter, is underpriced. You could also say that Mishra's Workshop is overpriced. So there's two different types of sides of the argument there. So consider this card, but it is our Baghdad, just for a minute. So here's another land, and I'm purposefully, I guess, using for this video for the Freetrions and everybody tuning in on the juice. New players, old players, Freetrions, Timmies, Scotties, Stewies, Stevies, Jeffies, Jimmies, Joeys, Sheilas, Andreas, any of you new players watching, let's read some Magic cards that cost a lot of money with crazy prices, and let's just look at the value of the card, what it does for us in the game, and see if that is worth the biscuit. If somebody was to pay the dollars or the euros or the cents for this card. Bazaar Baghdad, again, another very easy to get into this finance conversation at an open layer, first level layer discussion. Let's just lay some cards out on the playmat that cost nothing. Let's just imagine they're in our opening hand, right? Let's just imagine all these cards are basically in our opening hand, and we would look at them from a play value. We're not gonna talk too much about, on turn 4 this card's really good, or on turn 6 this card wins you the game, or in a mirror match when this sequence of events happen, this card will prevail. So those are pro tip players with experience that have looked like a card like Force of Will. Okay, Force of Will is great in your opening hand. Force of Will is also great late in the game. So maybe Force of Will is a different type of example, but the cards we're looking at here today are based on what's in your opening hand in Magic. Like, I don't know how many times when I was playing Magic, I would shuffle up my deck, I'd get it all, I'd goldfish as it's called now. I'd build my deck and put my copies in and figure out my mana curve and get my lands and spells, and I'd have it all laid out in front of me. knowing exactly how I wanted the deck to work, and I'd shuffle it up and I'd shuffle it, completely randomize that deck as best as I could, and then cut it, take 7 cards off the top and see what was in my hand, right? And see if I got that feeling of this is going to work out, or is this a mulligan, or is there some real stink hands that I'm seeing that I got to really fix or get out of the deck. So when you're looking at cards like price-wise, consider this cards in your opening hand. There's a lot of this is different than players versus speculators and investors who are just looking at Magic cards and throwing money at them because the price go up. So this card, Bizarre Baghdad, funny with the black. I have a post on the Patreon there, a story about this card and a purchase on a Black Lotus. But if you check that out, if somebody does want to read it, they can find it there. But here we go. Bizarre Baghdad. It's a land. If it's in your hand, you may play it onto the battlefield with no additional in-game cost. It is just a land. You tap it to take 2 cards from your library. Okay, tap to take 2 cards from your library. After which you must immediately discard 3 cards from your hand to your graveyard. Period. Okay, full stop. If you don't have 3 or more cards in your hand, discard your whole hand. No spells may be cast between drawing and discarding these cards. Wow. Okay, so here's value in the game, right? Like, it doesn't cost you anything to play it. It goes onto the battlefield. I think it manipulates 5 cards. Let's just see how that would work. You can take 2 cards off the top and then discard 3 from your hand. So I'm getting excited. This land, it manipulates 5 cards in the game. Just by putting it down and activating it. And you can activate it every turn. All right, well, just like the workshop, it doesn't take a lot of game aptitude to recognize that making 3 mana is quite powerful when it's for nothing, or manipulating 5 cards off the top, in any combination off the top of your library or in your hand and in your graveyard, is pretty powerful. Especially with dredge, but that's that next layer of what cards does it work well with. So this card, again, an old print set, it does have a high price tag, and it does have some in-game value to it. So we're just going to cover another card here, Island of Whack Whack card. So our presupposition today is that price and value do not mean the same thing with regards to Magic the Gathering cards. Change my mind. If you disagree, please leave a comment in the comment section below. This video was for Timmy. Timmy's new to Magic. Timmy has no idea why his cards are going up or going down after he trades them away to Scotty or Stevie. Timmy's just watching charts go sideways. Timmy looks at his cards and says, well, tapping to reduce target creature's power to 0 doesn't seem very good. Why did I trade that card away for so cheap? The price and the value of the card are 2 different things. That's what we're. If you disagree, please leave a comment. Change my mind. Leave a comment below. Another card that comes down, it doesn't have any in-game costs associated with it. It's got text on it. It's from an older set. I'm picking on reserve list cards, and I'm talking about cards from older sets, and this is particularly interesting. If you want to join in on this conversation, let's talk about Moat. Okay, so this is an enchantment. Here's an example of price manipulation. The price of this card is $1,948.14, €1,243.99. All right, this card we know has been bought out. Yes, there are actors that buy out cards, and they buy lots of them for several reasons. One, they either like the mechanic that's on the card, primarily the cards that do something for you are the ones that get evaluated as a buyout target. The other thing is rarity, scarcity, and print runs, and the fact that they won't be reprinted. So that is another layer of the collectability of Magic the Gathering that people kind of need to be aware of if you're garage sailing or bargain shopping or pawn shopping or throwing old boxes out from your son or daughter's collection after they moved out, and you're putting them in, the garbage bin. Moat. Here's a card that was bought out in mass, 40, 50 copies at a time, several times over. It's from Legends. It's an enchantment. There's another old school factor to this. So the deck, anybody who's familiar with the deck, they know one of these goes in the deck. So it's an old school card as well. So non-flying creatures cannot attack. This goes in the deck. It's an old school card. It's got that old school player appeal where if this mechanic is useful to you and you play old school, if you might think that having non-flying creatures attack is not the thing for you and you want this card, well, you got to buy it. You're not going to be able to play it from any other newer printings of the card because that's just the way the old school format works. So Mode is another example where we have a value of the card in the game. It's quite expensive. It's 4 mana for an enchantment that has a pretty niche market effect, whether it's playing an old school Commander. I guess it is relevant in Commander and pretty sought after mechanic. I know people have sought after other cards that do similar things like Mystic Decree, and there are other cards that produce the same in-game value, but the price of this card is primarily attached to the fact that it is a Legends card. Well, there you go. So if you like this video and you are new to Magic, thanks for tuning in. Hit the like and subscribe button. Don't forget to do that. It helps the channel grow. For all the free Treons watching, I appreciate you guys. Thanks. Happy Easter. And for all of those of you tuning in on the juice, leave us a comment below. The preposition price and value with regards to Magic cards are not the same thing. Price is in buy cost in dollars, fiat currency, and euro cents. Value is what it does for you. So if you like what these cards do for you, or you go around the reserve list and you see any other cards that have text on them, and you like what that text does for you, regardless of the price, you may see some value in it. So if you see value in cards that are at a good price, that's probably a good indication that you should pick up a copy for yourself. Here's looking at you, gusta, Scepter. Thanks a lot for watching. This has been your host, Brody, on an Easter weekend edition. Hope you guys are having a good time chilling out. Thanks a lot for watching, and bye-bye.